Hi, welcome to my new video. In this video I'm going to talk about Wine. Wine in terms of what are its functions, its utilities in context of audio production, but also in general for you. So if you have switched to Linux and want to work with Windows programs, for example, or some certain translation programs between Windows programs and a Linux host, this video might be helpful to you. What is Wine? Wine is a containerized Windows emulation. Emulation is not the fitting word, of course, because it is way more than that and it serves different functions. But if, for example, you want to either play Windows games, then you can use Wine. Of course, now in Steam, for example, in Linux Steam, it has its own Proton version, which is a derivative of the regular Wine, and which is far more fitting than the regular Wine. So gaming in Linux, use Steam, use Heroic Launcher. I may make a video about that, but just for you to know, this is what its original function is. If you want to work with Windows programs, Office programs, for example, or etc., then Wine is the way to go for you. Now, I'm working on EndeavorsOS, which is an Arch Linux derivative. Of course, in whichever distro you are using, the path of installation might differ, but the programs themselves and the behavior of these programs, they are the same. So this is, I will make a showcase about, my EndeavorsOS operating system, but how it's different to you will not be that relevant, the difference. In order to work with Windows programs or translation programs, we're going to install Wine. And here you have the choice between Wine Staging and regular Wine. What's the difference? Wine Staging is the testing branch, with the testing derivative of it. The newest patches, the newest functions, etc. I'm working with the staging version. If you want to work with, just normal Windows programs, etc., and don't need the newest functions and utilities and want to make absolute sure that there are no bugs or as good as no bugs in there, then use the regular Wine. Also, a reason why I'm using Wine Staging is because of my usage of Yarbridge. What is Yarbridge? Yarbridge is a program which allows me to use Windows audio plugins in DLL, VST, free, .clap format, for example, to be used in Linux Reaper or Linux Ardor, etc. So it's not really dependent on the DAW, but just so that you know that you run a Windows VST audio plugin, compressor, equalizer, whatever, through Wine, the compatibility layer, so that you can run Windows programs on a Linux host. Then after you've installed Wine Staging, then, let's make the first setups and the first, appropriate measurements and their first setups for you to do. So the first setup we are going to do is working with WineCFG, wine configuration. Why are we doing this? Because first of all, we're going to make sure that the Windows version, which is being emulated through the compatibility layer, is the correct one. And we are going to change the DPI scale. Now, you might ask yourself, what is the DPI scale? The DPI scale is the scaling software on how big a program is on your desktop. For example, I'm working on a 4K monitor, and if I do not change the DPI scaling, the programs will look way too small. Everything's crunched together and you can barely read anything. So if you have ever had this issue where a program wouldn't load properly, where the interface was way too small, like it was, on a mini iPad, for example, despite you are working on a 4K monitor, etc., then the term you are searching is DPI scaling, DPI error, whatever. So just for you to know. Then also important for you to know is Winetricks. What is Winetricks? Winetricks is the ability for you to install dependencies. Dependencies, like .NET functionalities, etc., because certain programs require certain utilities. Of course, most Windows programs automatically co-install them with the main software, but if that is not the case and there's a specific software you are trying to run with Wine, then Winetricks is the way to go for you. And there, where you can install the needed dependencies. Now let me talk about Wine Mono, WineGecko, and Wine9. It sounds a bit weird, but what are these utilities? What do they do and how are they useful to you? Wine Mono is the .NET alternative, or the replacement for .NET functionalities. Now certain programs are using this one in order to function properly. And this is what Wine Mono is doing. WineGecko. What is WineGecko? WineGecko is the Internet Explorer, basically. So what does it do? It, if a program, for example, needs authentication, auto-login into a software, linking it into a server, whatever, this dependency is going to be needed. Wine9. What is Wine9? Wine9 is a Gallium Direct 3D dependency in order for you to process mover playback, which is something to consider. Now at first, let's open the terminal and download the packages we need. In the description you will find all the commands, you just need to copy paste them in. And then download it. So then let's open winecfg, wine configuration. So here you can see the Windows version. Make sure that it's Windows 10, or for example, because if it's in the wrong Windows setting and the setting is in the wrong Windows version, you cannot install certain programs. So make sure to set this up properly. And under graphic, you will most likely have a DPI of 94. If you're working on a 4K monitor, this will look way too small to you. And since I'm working on a 4K monitor, I needed to change it to DPI of 192 in order to make it correctly sized. Then I'm working with Yarbridge. I'm not going to show this to you in this video, I'm going to make a specific video about Yarbridge, but Yarbridge is the translation program between the Windows programs, the Windows audio plugins and the Linux machine host. So it runs through Wine to Reaper, DAW, Audiodrivers, etc. But I'm going to make a specific showcase. Now, if for some reason you do not want to use Yarbridge, for whatever reason, what are some alternatives? For example, you have LinVST, you have Kala, you have WineASIO, Airwave, and etc. Now, I'm personally only working with Yarbridge through Wine. And I must say, I really had no real issue. Of course, since they are not native programs, there might be some scaling issues here and there, and some programs might look a bit funny, but all in all, the sound is not really different from a Windows machine host. So it's the graphical user interface of the audio plugins that may be affected in some programs, but not the sound, which is the important part. Thanks for watching this video, and keep working because there's still much to, so do. And go read Berserk.